On the other hand, the devil stared at Li Yuanqing with an incomparably cold expression. Countless pitch-black tentacles surged out from its palm. Those tentacles bared their fangs and brandished their claws as they spread in all directions. In the end, they all converged in one direction and rushed towards Li Yuanqing. In the other directions, the remaining devils had surrounded Li Yuanqing. They had already absorbed all the power of those weaker devils and made them theirs. Originally, these guys had already consumed enough devilish power in the battle just now. They should be exhausted now, but the one standing behind them was an endless supply of power. Those small fries could be manipulated by them without any obstruction. The huge devilish aura instantly drowned the entire soul suppression altar with Li Yuanqing at the center. The soul suppression altar slowly floated up with a faint golden light circulating on it. This golden light was like a thread that wrapped around the soul suppression altar and even Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing looked like he had already fused with the soul suppression altar. His breathing and every movement affected the movement of the soul suppression altar. The soul suppression altar that was originally fixed to the ground like a rock and did not move at all was now in Li Yuanqing's hands. It was simply like an arm of his, all for his use. Li Yuanqing felt the joy of controlling the soul suppression altar. This feeling was very strange. The soul suppression altar seemed to have a life of its own. It did have a life of its own and had its own thoughts. Although he was still a child, it had grown very quickly. However, Li Yuanqing did not have much time to feel this very strange feeling. The remaining few devil kings in front of him attacked at the same time. Moreover, these people were already desperate to take Li Yuanqing down. These devils had already gone crazy. They were about to lose their last chance to get out to an unknown human kid. How could they tolerate this? Moreover, they did not take this human kid seriously at all in the beginning. But now that they thought about it, if they had been more ruthless just now, they would have destroyed these two fellows before they formed. You're considered powerful after such a long time, but everything is already over. The human race will be destroyed sooner or later. You're already cursed existences in the catacombs world. Now die. The devil muttered, his words filled with hatred. The redness in his eyes became even hotter, like two flames burning fiercely, as if he wanted to burn Li Yuanqing's soul. Seeing that the devilish power that filled the sky was about to invade the outer shield formed by Li Yuanqing and the soul suppression altar, Li Yuanqing did not dare to be negligent. He raised his hand, and the golden threads that filled the sky turned into a soft shape like water. It was actually like a vast ocean. These golden waves slowly circulated around Li Yuanqing's body. They were like a golden river or an endless sea. How vast was that? The surging waves on the sea directly absorbed the rolling devilish aura in the sky. In the eyes of the devils, they only saw these golden nets screening and filtering over and over again. Every time they covered him, the devilish aura would be filtered clean, leaving nothing behind. The fatal blow that was originally prepared to cut off all means of retreat was casually resolved by Li Yuanqing's very ingenious arrangement. What the hell was going on? The devils were already in a mess. After being locked up for more than 1,000 years, they had long left the orbit of the outside world. It was impossible for them to see such a rude and unreasonable human kid in the past, but they did the moment they came out. Logically speaking, it was already fortunate that the human race could occupy an area with that bit of resources in the catacombs world. Their cultivation speed could not keep up at all. In addition, the resources in the catacombs world had been gathered by many groups. How many resources could the foreign races like the human race gather? Why could they raise such a powerful and unbelievable expert? Not to mention that this guy was only at this age. If he was allowed to develop freely like this, how strong would he become in the future? Just the thought of it made him shiver. General, what should we do? When the devils saw the situation in front of them, they all panicked. They originally thought that they would definitely be able to destroy Li Yuanqing easily. Although Li Yuanqing had used some methods just now, and it did not seem to be something that he could use with his strength, no matter what, they still had an advantage. Li Yuanqing had just exploded that thing. What else could he take out to self-destruct again to protect his life? However, they never expected Li Yuanqing to fuse with the soul suppression altar. They were still a little slow just now. Oh no, I should have been more ruthless just now. I shouldn't have given this kid a chance to breathe and let him completely fuse with the soul suppression altar. I'm afraid it won't be easy for me to delay anymore. So what? Are we going to leave now? If we leave just like that, won't we? When he thought about how he had come to the demon realm with great ambition 1,000 years ago and wanted to directly eradicate the demon realm and take this place for himself, but was forcefully sealed for 1,000 years, and he actually saw this scene after coming out 1,000 years later. He was all beaten back by a human brat. Even if he returned, there would probably be no place for him in the devil realm. What nonsense are you talking about? This kid must die here today. No matter what, he must die even if we have to risk our lives. The devil's eyes had really turned into flames. It had completely lost its mind. When his brothers heard their brother say this, they knew what was going on. They were each thinking about their own matters. No matter what situation their boss faced in the past, he had never said anything about risking his life. However, in the face of this situation today, it actually subconsciously said these words. That meant that in its opinion, there was probably no chance of winning this time. That was why it said such pessimistic words. The Devil King was still desperately pouring his power into it. He had completely lost his mind and poured out the magic power in his body like a flood opening a floodgate. He even grabbed all the little devils who were planning to escape behind him and sucked them dry, turning them into ashes. However, while the strength on its side had increased, the strength of the others had vaguely decreased. Those people had their own ulterior motives. They pretended to be attacking with all their might while silently retreating, thinking about where to escape. After Li Yuanqing fused with the soul suppression altar, he discovered the profundity of this thing. In the past, the Demon Slayer sword had a rather strong resistance against devilish aura. It was even very simple to resist it. However, when it came to the soul suppression altar, it was an overwhelming suppression of the devilish aura. Li Yuanqing did not even need to spend much strength. He could easily filter out all the devilish aura by letting himself use his strength on the soul suppression altar. There was nothing left except for power that blew against his face like a breeze. Li Yuanqing looked at the devils outside leisurely. These devils were already panicking. They had their own thoughts and were alone. Although the Devil King was still pouring out the power in his body, he could clearly feel that his strength was gradually exhausted. He looked around. His gaze kept sweeping across the cautious little devils. Wherever his gaze landed, the remaining little fellows fled in all directions. However, how could these fellows resist? For a moment, the devils that had just been saved in the valley were about to fall into the claws of the devils again. They had been sucked dry by their boss. The remaining little devils in the corners of the valley were still thinking of escaping, but none of them could even escape the entrance of the valley. After dealing with all the leftovers, the power was still far from enough to resist Li Yuanqing. The Devil King became even more anxious. No matter how hard he tried, Li Yuanqing could deal with it so calmly. This made the violent emotions in his heart gradually spread. Ah! He roared hysterically. Unless he poured out his strength again, he would be exhausted soon. Seeing that their boss had already fallen into a crazy state, the other lackeys did not want to play with it anymore. Since their boss still had some strength to be able to brush Li Yuanqing off, someone immediately reacted and hurriedly retreated from the besieging army. He first retreated hundreds of feet. All the devil's gazes were focused on it. He looked around uneasily and ran towards the entrance of the valley without looking back. Come back here. The Devil King stretched out a devil claw and grabbed in the direction of his former lackey. However, he helplessly discovered that his strength was actually so weak now. As soon as the chain was formed, it was easily cut off by his lackey. General, if we can survive now, we will naturally have a chance to return to the devil realm and revive our devil race in the future. However, General, you have already gone completely crazy. If we continue to be stubborn with you, I'm afraid we will all die here. Don't talk nonsense. The Devil King screamed, but the reality was very cruel. Seeing that their general no longer had the strength to stop them, the remaining fellows could not hold back anymore and retreated from the encirclement. In the end, only the Devil King was left. General, hold on again. We brothers will definitely avenge you in the future. Although these devils said that, no one believed their words. All of them were beaten up by Li Yuanqing as they attacked him. Moreover, they had set up very strict knowledge in the beginning and prepared very precise array formations. However, these array formations were completely useless. Under such circumstances, unless they opened the door to the devil realm and let their other brothers in, there was no chance of making a comeback in the future. Only then could they find stronger reinforcements. Come back. The Devil King threw out 4 chains from his body, wanting to pull all his brothers back and suck out all their strength. This was his only energy storage. As long as he killed all his brothers, he could fight Li Yuanqing. However, he was too weak now. The chains were broken by everyone. He was like a sick tiger without its claws. Li Yuanqing watched them put on such a show calmly. It looks like your brothers don't like to follow you anymore. Li Yuanqing was calm now. It was easy for him to speak. So far, he had not even spent too much spiritual energy. Instead, the spiritual energy in his body was slowly returning. He could feel that after the soul suppression altar absorbed all the devilish energy, it actually turned into spiritual energy and poured it into Li Yuanqing's body. This powerful attention could allow Li Yuanqing to maintain a very good state in battle. If these devils at the peak of the formation arrangement realm were already like this in front of Li Yuanqing, he would probably not be at a disadvantage against stronger devils in the future. Li Yuanqing was happy to see that the soul suppression altar had such a good effect. He did not expect that he would obtain another divine artifact after losing a very useful treasure. With this soul suppression altar, no devil would dare to be impudent in front of him in the future. The demon realm would probably be peaceful like this. Those devils were nothing to worry about. This place would immediately become the world of humans. The Devil King's body was trembling. It was unknown if it could not withstand such power output, or if it was too excited. Human kid, don't be arrogant. Even if I fall today, the hatred between us will be formed. Who do you think you're facing? As the devil spoke, it even laughed out loud. It was as if it still did not notice anything. All right, you're already abandoned by everyone. You've killed all your brothers. At this point, you're still thinking about your childish plans. I think you should rest in peace. A powerful explosion came from the vast mountains. The mushroom cloud produced by the explosion reached the sky and was tens of thousands of feet tall. Everyone who lived within 1,000 miles of this place could clearly hear the terrifying explosion. However, they did not know what had happened to cause such a strong impact in the mountain range. Oh no, oh no. Could it be that someone died in the Evil Spirit Valley again? It's really hard to say. I heard that there's a huge release every 100 years in the Evil Spirit Valley. It's about time. Could it be that a devil has really escaped? That's impossible. Didn't these devils say that they couldn't leave the mountain range? And why is there only such a strong explosion? Who can say for sure? One has to know that all those devils have extraordinary abilities. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been sealed inside. The nearby cultivators discussed. In a quiet valley, 3 men and 1 woman were resting in front of a cave when they suddenly heard the explosion and ran out hurriedly. Feng Tzuelian looked in the familiar direction and muttered in her heart. What happened? Why did the valley explode? Don't tell me some mighty figure was fighting there? The second brother had recovered a lot now, and his face was flushed. Big brother, what are you thinking? What kind of mighty figure can release such strength when fighting someone? It's impossible. That's right. But what's with the explosion? Could it be that a super mighty figure was really born? Have you noticed that the human race on the entire continent has become more and more powerful recently? I think it's most likely that the human race has discovered another treasure and raised a super mighty figure. The big brother's analysis seemed to be acceptable. Although it was still a little far-fetched, it did not seem easy to explain. Feng Tzuelian was still looking in this direction in shock. She was too familiar with it. If she remembered correctly, she had sent that young man to this mountain range. Could it be that young man? However, Feng Tzuelian felt that it did not seem like it. He was just a kid. How could a kid have such powerful strength? Feng Tzuelian had always been puzzled. How did that guy bring her brothers out of there in such a short period of time? Although the siblings had discussed a lot, they could not think of an accurate answer. In the end, They felt that this matter was very strange and treated it as they had fallen into an illusion. They did not pursue the matter further. However, if this matter was related to that kid, it seemed to be possible. Sualian, what are you thinking about? Nothing. I just thought of the young man who saved Big Brother yesterday. You mean that kid caused such a huge commotion in the mountains? I'm not especially sure, but there's only one person who went into the mountains recently. The others also seem to. It's impossible for that kid to be alone. Moreover, he's so young and his strength is probably average. It's already good enough that he can protect himself, let alone cause such a huge commotion. It's impossible. Big Brother is right. All right, don't think about it anymore. No matter what, with such turmoil in the mountains, I'm afraid the following days won't be so easy. Everyone should hurry up and recover. After you recover, let's go to another place. I heard that Rong City is much more stable now. Why don't we seek refuge in Rong City? I heard that Rong City is indeed the most stable city now. No one is causing trouble inside, and no one is arguing with each other. It's the most stable city among all the cities. It shouldn't be wrong to seek refuge there. It's settled then. Everyone, quickly recover your strength. We have suffered a lot of injuries this time. Although we've obtained some materials, we've still suffered some losses overall. We have to gather more materials before we go. Otherwise, we'll be chased out if we can't stand firm there. While the four of them were chatting, they did not notice a gust of wind blowing gently above their heads. The wind came and went without a trace, but when the wind stopped, they could clearly see that it was a square stone platform 2 meters long and 2 meters wide. On it stood a young and handsome man. Li Yuanqing stopped on a tall mountain and looked down at this wilderness. There were many wild beasts growing here. These wild beasts were very powerful. They were much stronger than humans when they were born, but it was not easy for them to become very strong. Li Yuanqing destroyed all those devils in the valley. After destroying the valley, he left with the soul suppression altar. After obtaining the soul suppression altar, he had explored a lot. This thing could be big or small, and it could be used as a flying Dharma artifact. If he flew, it would be easy to waste too much spiritual energy, and it would not be too stable. However, this thing was different. Not only was it very stable, but it could also help with recovery and even heal injuries. This soul suppression altar was really a useful thing. He just did not know where such a useful thing came from. Li Yuanqing had always been brooding over what those devils had said. The human race was cursed here. In Li Yuanqing's opinion, this sentence should mean that the Black Dragon had cursed all the humans and restricted their cultivation. However, it did not seem right. This was because after the humans cut off the restrictions of the Black Dragon, the increase in their strength was still not that obvious. At the very least, they seemed to be a little inferior to the world on the ground. Most importantly, there were such rich resources underground. Logically speaking, there should be many spirit stone mines, but there were so few that the human race could use. Why was that? Those devils must know something. However, Li Yuanqing did not waste his breath on them. He wanted to kill them all. He would probably have to slowly explore the reason behind this. Li Yuanqing flipped his palm, and a few huge devil crystals appeared. These devil crystals were all taken from those devils in the battle just now. These devils were much stronger than the ones from before. Their devil crystals were also purer and contained more power. Li Yuanqing has obtained enough materials now. He was thinking how strong this devil crystal would be if he could mix these devil crystals together again and obtain an even stronger demon crystal. After having this thought, Li Yuanqing could not suppress the excitement in his heart. He wondered what kind of power would be born if he could fuse the devil crystals of the peak formation arrangement realm devil experts and the devil crystals of the experts he had fused together. Perhaps he could touch the boundary of the next level. On the platform at the top of the mountain, 2 children suddenly jumped out. These 2 children were fighting excitedly when they suddenly changed spaces. They could not react for a moment. The 2 of them knelt on the ground after seeing Li Yuanqing. Master! Li Yuanqing looked at the 2 of them and nodded in satisfaction. The results of your cultivation these few days are very good. Thank you for your guidance, Master. It's all thanks to the pills and natural treasures you gave us. If not for these things, the 2 of us might not have been able to touch the boundary of the body refinement realm even if we spent decades. It's also because the two of you are talented and calm that you can reach the peak. It won't be long before the two of you can use that foundation establishment pill. However, you still have to stabilize it first. Master, you're right. The two of us are thinking the same thing. We have to stabilize our current cultivation first and think about breaking through after our strength is more condensed. Li Yuanqing was very satisfied. He did not release them out when he was fighting with the devils, so the two of them did not even know what had happened. However, with their strength, it was useless even if they were released. Yang Tianqi secretly looked up at Li Yuanqing and suddenly said, "Congratulations, master."
Li Yuanqing laughed in confusion.
He looked at Yang Tianqi and asked, "Why is there something to congratulate me for?" Yang Tianqi said seriously, "Master's luck is longer than before and your expression is more relaxed. If I'm not wrong, Master should have advanced to the next level." Li Yuanqing smiled and looked at Yang Tianqi. Yang Tianqi was really smart and knew how to observe expressions. He could observe even the slightest changes in others. Lu Wen scratched his head. Although he had the same feeling just now, he could not be as certain as Yang Tianqi. Therefore, he would not think of any congratulatory words. Li Yuanqing had indeed reached the 7th grade formation arrangement realm. During this period of time, he had been busy collecting materials everywhere and had obtained many good things. His 7th grade formation arrangement realm strength was quite stable now. He planned to try to break through to a higher level after refining those materials. Originally, he thought that being at the 6th grade formation arrangement realm in this catacombs world was already the peak of his strength. However, from the looks of it, his idea was more or less a little childish. If he hadn't had the help of the soul suppression altar, he would have died under someone else's saber when he encountered this peak formation arrangement realm devil. However, the most important thing now was to use these materials. Li Yuanqing was not sure what these powerful devil crystals could refine with those materials. "Master, have you really broken through?" Lu Wen looked at Li Yuanqing in disbelief. "It's extremely difficult for you to take a step forward in this realm. I didn't expect you to be able to break through again in this realm. You're really a rare expert in the mortal world." Li Yuanqing smiled and shook his head. He first knocked Yang Tianqi's head and patted Lu Wen's head. "The two of you should focus on cultivation. Cultivators must be focused and not think about such nonsense all day long." Yang Tianqi stuck out his tongue in surprise and pulled his little ears as if he knew his mistake. "Master, I was wrong. I won't speak nonsense in the future." "All right, I'm not scolding you. Your observation skills are good, and you have a huge advantage in knowledge. If I were your enemy, I would be at a disadvantage now. Master, stop joking. If you're our enemy, the two of us won't be able to touch you. How's the cultivation technique I prepared for the two of you? How's your cultivation?" Lu Wen looked at Yang Tianqi, who took the initiative to say, "To be honest, the cultivation technique that Master gave us is too profound. The two of us haven't comprehended it completely until now, but we have some comprehension. There's no need to be anxious. Take your time. In future actual combat, you will naturally have a deeper understanding. There's no need to say anything." As Li Yuanqing spoke, he suddenly waved his hand gently and lifted the two of them up. "I still have something to do recently. The two of you have been staying in the domain space all the time, so it's not easy for you to improve your understanding of fighting and cultivation. Therefore, the two of you can go out and train for the time being. I'll look for you when the time comes." The two children had grown up in an unrestrained environment since they were young. Now that they were suddenly locked in this narrow space, although Li Yuanqing's domain space was large enough and the two of them were willing to cultivate inside, they would feel frustrated after a long time. When the two of them heard Li Yuanqing's arrangements, they immediately smiled. "Where does Master want us to train?" Li Yuanqing pointed in the direction of Sea City. Now that Sea City has officially started, there are many chaotic scenes. Although those scenes are some trouble for City Lord Ye's management, it's a good training ground for children like you. Sea City. Yang Tianqi lowered his head gloomily. "I thought I was going back to Rong City. We'll go wherever Master wants us to go. Why are you still so picky?" Lu Wen curled his lips and said, "What do you mean by picky?" "I was just saying." Li Yuanqing smiled at his two disciples. These two children's personalities were really compatible. Letting the two of them be together was a very good decision. You two don't have to fight anymore. You will naturally have a chance to go to Rong City in the future, but not now. For now, you should listen to my orders obediently. Yes, master. Li Yuanqing passed by Sea City and stopped for a moment before leaving along the river. In the end, he stopped at the end of the river, at the bottom of the river where the devilish aura was the most turbulent. After he sealed this place last time, no one seemed to have come over to touch it during this period of time. This stone tablet was also sealed well. For the time being, there was no problem. Li Yuanqing wanted to condense those few large devil crystals and gather them together before using them to refine a powerful Dharma artifact. He had a rough plan of what the Dharma artifact should look like. Although the devilish aura in the river was much thinner than before, there was still a trace of devilish aura circulating beside it. From time to time, a devilish aura would seep out from the heaven and earth stone tablet below. Li Yuanqing needed these things. He took out the few devil crystals and the one he had condensed last time. If there was any difference, the devil crystal that Li Yuanqing had processed had much more chaotic energy inside. He had already used a special method to fuse the energy inside and let them stay together for the time being. However, the power inside was too complicated after all. Compared to these devils, the purity of the energy produced after years of purification was naturally incomparable. In the end, although Li Yuanqing could use the devil crystal to refine Dharma artifacts, the effect should be much worse. However, he now had these top-notch treasures in his hands. One of these guys was a true peak formation arrangement realm expert. The devil crystal condensed by an expert of this strength had vaguely touched the next level of power. From his devil crystal, it could be seen that the way the power circulated was different from the other devil crystals. After Li Yuanqing settled down at the bottom of the river, he came to the domain space. The cocoon formed by the blood vine in the domain space was still jumping around. It had been a few days since it became like this. Although the power inside was constantly strengthening, there was no other movement. It was unknown what it would become. Li Yuanqing was still a little worried because he realized that the power condensed from the blood vine was a very unique energy. When he first met the blood vine, he had sensed that the power on this fellow was too complicated. He felt that he had been tainted by some of the aura of the humans, demons, and devils. However, at that time, the energy on his body was still too complicated, so he could easily sense the problem. But now, the blood vine seemed to be able to fuse the complicated energy on his body very well. It was hard to say if this situation was good or bad for Li Yuanqing. However, he could only take it one step at a time. He found a mountain in his domain space and set up a small array. When he was about to condense the devil crystal, he could not guarantee what would happen. He had to protect this place first. It would not be worth it if the overflowing energy destroyed the things outside. After setting up, Li Yuanqing sat cross-legged in a small cave he had arranged. 10 devil crystals floated in front of him, and there was a group of small devil crystals beside them. A small array beside him slowly activated. Beams of light extended from below, lifting the devil crystals like last time and holding them in front of Li Yuanqing. Now, everything was ready except for the east wind. He wondered if he could successfully fuse these things together this time. He slowly activated the array. The pillar of light below gradually became brighter, and the energy overflowing from it gradually focused. The energy was like small tentacles that firmly grabbed the devil crystal and kept transferring it. As long as there was any benefit to this devil crystal, those small tentacles would immediately change their movements and adjust it to a suitable state. It looked like there were little people working in the pillar of light, but in fact, these tentacles were all under Li Yuanqing's control. Li Yuanqing's face was covered in sweat as he stared nervously at every detail. He would immediately adjust if anything was wrong. This peak formation arrangement realm devil crystal was a good thing that could only be encountered by chance. He could not destroy it just like that. At this moment, Li Yuanqing's actions seemed to have activated something. The Devil King's devil crystal suddenly trembled violently and was tightly wrapped by those small tentacles. He actually resisted alone. Li Yuanqing thought that this fellow's essence soul had been completely destroyed, but he did not expect it to still move. He thought that this was just a chaotic energy. However, in the next second, What happened on the devil crystal immediately dumbfounded him. After the devil crystal was infiltrated by the energy of the outside world, it finally could not hold back anymore. Purple-black energy constantly seeped out from inside. In the beginning, this purple-black energy only had a defensive posture, forming a protective shell outside the devil crystal. However, when it realized that it was useless, it simply transformed into a small person and waved its hands left and right, pushing away the small tentacles wrapped around the devil crystal one by one. Li Yuanqing was dumbfounded as he watched the little fellow peel the tentacles off like potato skin. Although the tentacles continued to wrap forward, this fellow never stopped. Its hands were busy making defensive postures. He increased his control, and the small tentacles headed straight for the little person. In front of the tentacles, the little person bared its teeth like a god of war and waved its hands to resist the hundreds of tentacles. He was actually at a disadvantage after a few rounds of confrontation. He could not do anything to the devil crystal with just the small tentacles and the pillar of light. Such a small person appeared from the devil crystal and blocked Li Yuanqing's control. He put down his hand and controlled the other places, causing his control of the other devil crystals to stop and focus his attention on this devil crystal. After the little person got a moment of rest, he looked around, as if he was still on guard for an attack that would come at any moment. Li Yuanqing's sword formation was useless to him. He used his powerful divine sense to transform into another divine sense small person and entered the pillar of light. He stood in front of the small black person. The little black man was on guard everywhere when it suddenly saw such a fellow appear. It immediately bared its teeth and became vigilant. The little person that Li Yuanqing had transformed into did not show any weakness. A bright little sword appeared in his hand, and he waved it as he rushed towards the little fellow. The little guy took out a small black shield from somewhere, and the two of them collided. Li Yuanqing felt dizzy. He was actually at a disadvantage in the first wave of impact. Every attack on the divine sense person caused damage to his divine sense. He had not paid much attention just now, so he was accidentally injured by this little fellow. The small black person waved the small shield in its hand and shouted at Li Yuanqing's small person arrogantly. Li Yuanqing's face tensed up. A long rod appeared in the little guy's hand. A long rod could be used to defend or attack. It was better to be safe for the time being when dealing with this fellow. The little white person waved the long rod in its hand and turned around. It moved left and right and arrived in front of the little black person. The little black man seemed to be shocked by Li Yuanqing's sudden appearance and hurriedly used the shield in his hand to fight. However, Li Yuanqing had suffered last time and did not take it head-on. He was just fainting just now. After the black little person made a defensive posture, he immediately turned the long rod in his hand around and struck the lower half of the fellow's body. This rod hit the guy's leg firmly. This little fellow's thick legs were deeply rooted in the devil crystal. After being hit so heavily, his legs were almost pulled out by the roots. The black little person's body swayed. His legs were weak from Li Yuanqing's beating. He widened his eyes in anger and gritted his teeth as he glared at the little person formed by Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing had seen with his own eyes that the Devil King's soul had been destroyed. Not only was his body destroyed, but his soul had also been completely refined. There was nothing left. But why was there such a thing in the Devil Crystal now? What was it? Li Yuanqing could not understand and felt that it was very strange. Could it be that this Devil King still had a wisp of his soul that had escaped pursuit and was still alive and hiding in the Devil Crystal? If that was the case, then the effect of the Devil Crystal was really quite great. At that time, Li Yuanqing had directly used the soul suppression altar to kill them all. Logically speaking, there should not be any dregs left. However, he could use the Devil Crystal to save a wisp of his soul. It was really shocking. Seeing that it was at a disadvantage in the battle with Li Yuanqing, the small black figure carefully retreated from the ground, and its body gradually fused into the Devil Crystal. Only half of his body was left holding the small black shield as he stared warily at Li Yuanqing. He planned to shrink into a turtle shell and not do anything. Although he did not know what was going on with this little fellow, Li Yuanqing had to destroy it now. Otherwise, this fellow would severely affect his progress in refining devil crystals. He took out the soul suppression altar and covered his head. He sat down on the soul suppression altar, and threads of energy scattered on the devil crystal. Immediately, the devil crystal below became obedient. Although the little black man was very arrogant just now, after being enveloped by this energy, it immediately became lazy. Its entire body became soft, and it seemed to be unable to hold its small shield steadily. Li Yuanqing controlled the energy emitted by the soul suppression altar and tried to save the small black figure from inside. After the little guy's nerves were paralyzed, he could not resist at all. He was wrapped in a golden light that wrapped around his upper body like a thread and pulled him out of the devil crystal below. Although he still wanted to resist, he did not seem to be able to find any reason to resist. He looked at the devil crystal below longingly. In the end, he could only be pulled out by Li Yuanqing. The troublesome little fellow was finally pulled out and landed in front of Li Yuanqing. Li Yuanqing felt the pure power of his divine sense in this guy's body and tried to communicate with him. There was nothing messy in the black little person's body, only a very pure divine sense power. Moreover, the procedure was the simplest. Nothing else had landed on it, like a newborn baby. This was a treasure. Li Yuanqing had always wanted to split out a seed that could grow on its own, but he had never succeeded. Now, this great devil had actually left him such a seed. The thing that grew out of this seed was naturally very different from the original body. However, it was something that he had created himself. It could be mixed according to his preferences and had a promising future. This was not a simple puppet technique. As a low-level puppet technique, it controlled the souls that already existed and let him use them as he pleased. Although it was very direct, it also had negative effects. Most importantly, it was very easy to cause the receptor to resist. If those puppets were suddenly unwilling to be controlled like this one day, they might suffer a backlash. At that time, even their masters would be easily injured. And this kind of divine sense seed that he had planted not only had a stronger talent, but more importantly, they would never betray him. They were his other clones. Although this little fellow was a spirit body of the devils, Li Yuanqing had enough devil crystals on him. As long as he left some for him to grow and nurture, it would be no different from the divine sense seed that he had personally split out. After Li Yuanqing made up his mind, the energy emitted from it weakened slightly. He had originally planned to get rid of this little fellow directly, but it seemed that keeping this little fellow was more useful to him. He gently stretched out a finger and placed it on the little fellow's head. The little fellow's entire head was about the size of his finger. Li Yuanqing tried to fuse these powerful devil crystals, but these things resisted very violently. He could not be too hasty, so in the end, it became a tug of war. Days passed, and he sat in the cave like a wooden statue without moving for more than 10 days. In the world outside the domain, in Sea City, there was a free market. Bastard, you dare to snatch my things? Have you never heard of my name? If I don't kill you today, my name won't be Zhao Batian. A vendor of the spirit transformation realm heavily threw a thin, middle-aged cultivator to the ground. This middle-aged cultivator was thin and had a slender face. He did not seem to have any fat on his body. There were 2 mustaches hanging from the corners of his mouth, and his eyes were bright. His face looked like a big rat. Seeing that the stall owner was angry, the fellow hurriedly rolled to the side and the gravel hit his back. Where he had been lying just now, a huge axe shattered the stone slab on the ground. The stone slab was smashed into flying stones that scattered in all directions. Lu Wen turned around with a cry and looked in the direction of the explosion. He covered his butt and looked unhappily at the burly man. He and Yang Tianqi had been in Sea City for half a month. During this half a month, the 2 of them mainly came here to cultivate, so they often went to various venues and arenas. In the beginning, the 2 of them were still more introverted and would not get involved in those things too much. However, these 2 brothers were helping each other now and were still doing well here. They were like locals. Speaking of which, most of the people in Sea City had moved in from outside, so there was nothing to say. It was easy for these foreign kids to adapt, but this was also one of the problems. This was because the structure of this place was too loose. After all, it had only been organized for a short period of time, so children like them were still relatively dangerous outside. Fortunately, Li Yuanqing had arranged it for them before he left. He seemed to have arranged for a beautiful sister called Little Man. That sister had only seen the two of them twice, but for some reason, the two of them had basically not encountered any danger since they arrived. It should be because Sister Little Man had promised them that she would secretly protect them after that. Otherwise, there would still be many dangerous situations. These two children did not know that the man-eating vine's current attainments in array formations were at the proficiency level. All the array formations in Sea City were built by her. It was very simple for her to protect the two children. After noticing Lu Wen's unfriendly gaze, the bully who called himself Zhao Batian widened his round eyes and looked over. "What are you looking at, brat? If you look at me again, I'll pull out your two smart eyes." Zhao Batian threatened the two of them angrily. Lu Wen gritted his teeth and glared at him. However, there was nothing he could do about this. This person was a true spirit transformation realm cultivator. The two of them had yet to reach the foundation establishment realm. To that fellow, it was simply a matter of moving his fingers. Yang Tianqi saw that Lu Wen was about to get angry and hurriedly blocked him. "What are you screaming at? We're all in business. Don't make everyone angry. No one will have a business then." The surrounding crowd looked at the two little fellows. Their cultivation levels were not high, but their tone was quite arrogant. They did not dare to speak to Zhao Batian like this, but these two little fellows dared to speak so arrogantly. It was really impressive. They did not know if they could withstand Zhao Batian's anger. Zhao Batian was originally very angry because he had caught that guy who looked like a big rat trying to steal something from his shop. However, this anger was completely transferred to the two of them. These two little fellows were just passing by. It had nothing to do with the two of them. However, they suddenly could not take it lying down and insisted on taking on this lousy job. He ignored the middle-aged man and strode towards Lu Wan and Yang Tianqi. Yang Tianqi was intimidated by the aura on his body and could not help but take a step back. He swallowed his saliva and looked at him warningly. "What do you want?" "I'm warning you. The City Lord Manor has a clear rule that you're not allowed to hit anyone for no reason in this free market. We have no grudge with you. If you dare to touch the two of us, the City Lord will not let you off." Zhao Batian could not help but laugh out loud when he heard their childish words. "Oh, did I hear wrongly? Why are you two trying to reason with me here? If you say this, I have to tell you what rules the City Lord Manor has set." Yang Tianqi straightened his chest and glared at him. "All right, then tell me." Zhao Batian smiled evilly as he watched the two children rub their palms together in anticipation. "Little guy, it's not appropriate to say this here. The two of you will come back with me. I'll explain everything to you in my cave abode later." As soon as he said this, the onlookers laughed along. They were all adults and knew what this fellow meant. He clearly wanted to take these two brats back and use them for other things. Yang Tianqi snorted coldly and glared at him. "You're quite arrogant. Do you know that the City Lord has been strictly arresting those bandits who wantonly take others away? I didn't expect that not only are you not afraid, but you even took the initiative to introduce yourself. Just you wait. I'll report it now." Zhao Batian laughed even more happily. He patted his stomach and said arrogantly, "Little fellows, what use are you two other than to play with your bodies? Don't tell me you really think you can improve on your cultivation in this life? However, I think your talent is not bad. Go back with me and let me play with you. I will naturally give you benefits." Lu Wen took out a short sword and sneaked out from behind Yang Tianqi. While the guy was laughing, he stabbed him in the crotch. There was a clang. Zhao Batian's smile immediately froze on his face. He put on an angry expression and lowered his head to look at Lu Wen, who was clamped under his crotch. "Kid, I'm telling you nicely here, but you want to ambush me." Zhao Batian suddenly laughed out loud and grabbed Lu Wen and Yang Tianqi like they were chickens. "Kid, weren't you being stubborn just now? You said that I had no reason to beat the two of you up. Why aren't you talking now? You were the ones who attacked me first. I was just defending myself. You have nothing to say, right?" "Ha ha ha." Lu Wen gritted his teeth and waved the short knife in his hand. He wanted to continue attacking, and he slashed Zhao Batian's arm again and again. It was as if he had slashed on steel bars. Not a single mark was left. Yang Tianqi took advantage of the moment when Lu Wen had attracted the other party's attention to take out a steel needle from somewhere and throw it at Zhao Batian's face. As soon as these steel needles appeared, they exploded in midair like cannonballs. They accelerated and turned into illusions that smashed towards Zhao Baishan's face. Zhao Batian was caught off guard and was stabbed in the face by these steel needles. He did not care much at first, but he did not expect this thing to be so powerful. Zhao Batian, who was smiling very happily just now, had his face pierced like a porcupine. The onlookers were all laughing very happily. It had been a long time since this bully had been humiliated like this. It was really ridiculous to be humiliated by two children. "Kid, I'll kill you today." As Zhao Batian spoke, his hands were about to crush their necks, but at this moment, he suddenly felt his entire body stiffen, as if he could not move. He still wanted to use strength, but he was surprised to discover that he could no longer control his spiritual energy. He had completely become a puppet. "What are you doing? What did the two of you do?" Zhao Baishan's eyes darted around. He felt that someone must have secretly shot arrows at him. "Who are you? Come out if you have the guts. Don't hide there like a coward." Just as he finished shouting, a graceful woman in green descended from the sky and landed in front of him like a beautiful immortal. Everyone was stunned when they saw this beautiful woman. The man-eating vine's form was becoming more and more mature. She still looked like a graceful beauty. "Are you looking for me?" As soon as the man-eating vine appeared, someone immediately recognized her. Although Sea City was very chaotic now, they knew that there were a few ruthless figures that they could not provoke. One of them was undoubtedly this elusive array formation master. This array formation master was like a ghost. She could appear anywhere in this world. Zhao Batian had wanted to shout just now, but he immediately recognized the identity of the man-eating vine. His legs instantly went limp from fear, and he almost peed his pants on the spot. Most importantly, he knew that he could not cross the line. He definitely did not dare to be disrespectful to this array formation master. "State Preceptor, why are you here? This is all a misunderstanding." Zhao Batian was so frightened that he almost peed his pants. He looked at the man-eating vine and begged for mercy with a trembling voice. The man-eating vine waved her hand gently and saved the two little fellows from him. Her voice was even more ethereal, as if it came from the sky. "Were you going to kill them just now? State Preceptor, this is all a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. I was just joking with them. I definitely didn't mean it like this." "Is that so?" "That's right. I went crazy from cultivating today. I was confused. I didn't know anything. I've already forgotten what I said just now. I don't even know what I said now. I don't know these two brats at all. What I said just now should be a misunderstanding." However, in the next second, his voice immediately stopped. His huge head, with his two round eyes, rolled to the floor. Before he died, he was still praying for forgiveness. However, the man-eating vine would not forgive him. After the man-eating vine arrived, her eyes were simply bloodshot. Anyone who was touched by her would not be able to escape. With her strength and the fact that she could control such a huge array formation here, no one in Sea City could escape the clutches of the man-eating vine. The onlookers were as silent as cicadas in winter. They had been laughing happily just now, but now they could not say a word. They carefully retreated, not knowing what to do. Now, it was awkward whether they left or stayed. The man-eating vine glanced at the two children. Before Li Yuanqing left, he had instructed her to let the two children develop freely here. It was not appropriate for the man-eating vine to interfere too much. Otherwise, she would not have appeared when their lives were in danger. She did not know how to deal with her relationship with these two children, so she pretended not to know them. She did not look at the two of them. Instead, she smiled and turned around, scaring the onlookers so much that they did not even dare to raise their heads. The city lord has no intention of showing any mercy to these willful bullies. I advise you to take care of yourself and do trade in the market. It's better not to have any other ideas. Everyone immediately echoed after her. The state preceptor is right. We all do our business here well. He's the only one who always bullies others. The others don't. That's right, state preceptor. We would never do such a thing. The man-eating vine chuckled in satisfaction. With a wave of her sleeve, she disappeared, leaving only a fragrant breeze. After a long time, They finally dared to raise their heads to see that there was no one else in the empty space. Only then did they heave a sigh of relief. "Goodbye, State Preceptor. Goodbye, State Preceptor." They shouted and checked their surroundings again and again, hoping that the man-eating vine would leave early and not return. She should have left, right? Who knows? What about those two brats? What's their relationship with the State Preceptor? Why can't I find them? Where did those two brats come from? Who knows? Perhaps these children don't have any background, but this State Preceptor is really powerful. Why is she everywhere? I heard that the State Preceptor's cultivation is about to reach that realm. Really? But with the State Preceptor's strength, it's hard to say. He had never seen a formation arrangement realm expert before, let alone someone like the man-eating vine with a young age. If someone could reach that height at such a young age, their future achievements would be limitless. There were various speculations about the man-eating vine in the city, but there was a very common saying. Most of them were very afraid of the man-eating vine. After all, she had been with Li Yuanqing for so long. Although the man-eating vine had yet to reach the formation arrangement realm, she was still a unique existence among the spirit transformation realm. Moreover, she had the support of a huge protective array. No one in the city could threaten her. Everyone had their own opinions. As they spoke, the topic moved away from Lu Wan and Yang Tianqi. It was difficult for those two little children to attract any attention. However, not everyone ignored the two children. One of them had his attention completely on the two of them. He even followed them silently when the two of them left sneakily. Outside Sea City, there were complicated paths among the low houses. It was like a maze. The roads could make people dizzy, and there were also many dead ends that could be reached with 2 steps. In a quiet alley, Lu Wan and Yang Tianqi carefully stopped. They carefully observed behind them before heaving a sigh of relief. "Have you forgotten what Master told us? We should be more cautious outside. There are so many of them. There's really no need to get angry with them." Yang Tianqi looked at Lu Wan reproachfully. Lu Wan replied unhappily, "It's fine if that bastard hit people like this, but he even smashed a rock on me and made my butt swollen. He's a 5th grade spirit transformation realm expert after all. If the two of us really go against him, we won't have a good time. Fortunately, Sister Little Man saved us today. Otherwise, how would the two of us be able to escape?" Lu Wan knew that he was in the wrong, so he did not retort. He only muttered to himself, "In any case, with Sister Little Man here, the two of us will be fine. Besides, those bastards are really too much. We should have just organized the city protection team earlier and cleaned up these troublemakers. At that time, it would be much quieter." Yang Tianqi shook his head and said helplessly, "There's nothing we can do. If not for Sister Yi being seriously injured, I'm afraid she would have completely dealt with those by now. There's nothing we can do with Sister Little Man alone in this situation. However, in general, we can still maintain stability. It's not a big deal. I will definitely find his murderer and find all the rats hiding in the darkness." As the two of them were talking, a person suddenly appeared at the entrance of the alley. This person's face was sallow, and there was a small mustache at the corner of his mouth. His eyes were so cunning that it was as if he had dug out the eyes of the rat and placed them on his face. His face looked more like a big rat when he smiled, scaring the two children. "Little guy, why are you here?" The two boys immediately became vigilant when they saw this person appear. They retreated to the back of the alley and looked at the middle-aged man in front of them warily. "You?" Lu Wan immediately recognized the guy in front of him. "Aren't you the guy who was fighting over there just now? What's wrong? Didn't you get beaten up enough just now? Why are you here to cause trouble for us now?" This person suddenly smiled even more happily and said to the little guy, "Little fellow Taoist, why are your words so harsh? Do I look like that kind of bad person? If not for the two of you helping me out just now, I'm afraid I would have lost my life. Therefore, I came specifically to thank the two of you." The two children snorted at this person's words. "Cut the crap. If you have something to say, say it. If not, get lost." The middle-aged man raised his head and laughed out loud. "Why is that little guy so irritable? I haven't even spoken to you two yet, and you're already in a hurry to chase me away?" Lu Wan took out a silver sword. As soon as the sword appeared, it dispersed to the side with a water ripple-like energy. A glint flashed across the middle-aged man's eyes. Looking at this treasure, he instinctively became cautious. I'm warning you, if you don't get lost, don't blame us for being rude. The middle-aged man immediately raised his hands and showed his empty palms to the two of them. He explained, "Little brothers, don't be so anxious. I'm here to discuss business with you, not to fight and kill. Moreover, looking at the treasures in your hands, you must have an extraordinary background. How can a rogue cultivator like me dare to provoke you?" Yang Tianqi snorted coldly and looked at him. "Don't talk so much nonsense. We're leaving now. Hurry up and move aside." "Hey, little brothers, don't leave yet. Don't you want to hear the business I want to discuss with you? Cut the crap. What's there to talk about with the two of us? If you really have a big business, find someone else. There are many people in the market who have nothing to do. If there's really a good business, they'll fight to do it. Do you have to risk two burdens to find the two of us?" Yang Tianqi's words were reasonable and irrefutable. The man could not help but laugh when he heard his words. "Little brother, although the two of you are young, you're smart. You're indeed very smart. I think it was definitely the right choice to look for you this time." Yang Tianqi turned to look at Lu Wan and whispered, "Leave directly later. Don't waste your breath on this lunatic. This guy is here to fool us. Ignore him. Let's leave now. Look at this bastard's nerves. Who knows what he will do later? This place is so remote that we can't stay long." As the two brothers spoke, they leaned to the side warily and slowly walked out along the wall. The man was very tactful. He leaned against the other wall and looked at the two children. He had no intention of attacking. "Little brothers, I've already said to this point. Can't you give me some face? This is really good business. There are treasures inside. If not for the fact that I can't enter, why would I give this good thing to the two of you? Only you can enter." The two brothers looked at each other and were not bewitched by his words. They continued to walk out. They successfully reached the entrance of the alley and hurriedly jumped over. They landed on the path and turned around to look at the man warily. The man smiled helplessly and spread out his hands. He looked at the two of them and said, "What are you worried about? I definitely don't have any ill intentions towards the two of you. I really have a good business here. Let's talk. There's a secret realm treasure there. Only I know where it is. As long as you agree to go with me, I'll split the treasure we obtained with the two of you." Yang Tianqi planned to leave when he had the chance, but Lu Wan could not help but say, "Don't fool a child. Don't think that we're young and plan to use this trick to trick us. It's useless to lie to us. If you really had such a good place to find a treasure, you would have gone long ago. Why are you still saying these useless words for no reason?" This man was most afraid that the two of them would turn around and leave without giving him any chance. However, since Lu Wan had replied, things would be much easier. "Little brother, the place I'm talking to the two of you is very strange. It has a very unique restriction. Only those who haven't reached the Foundation Establishment realm can enter. As long as they are in the Foundation Establishment realm, they won't be able to enter." "Nonsense. How can there be such a place in this world? Why would I lie to you? This is true. I accidentally discovered this mystic realm, but I've never been able to obtain any benefits from it." Yang Tianqi was much more cautious. He glared at him and said, "Stop talking nonsense. Sea City was controlled by the demons previously. It's impossible for anyone to guard here. Moreover, I heard that everyone in the past has died. If you've known about this place for a long time, how can you still be standing here alive?" The man slapped his forehead and smiled helplessly. "Look at how smart you two children are. Your brains are much better. Actually, this place is a natural mystic realm that was exposed after the demons wreaked havoc. I wasn't the first to discover it, but there were others. However, those people are very bad people. Recently, they have been crazily capturing all kinds of children and throwing them into the mystic realm without any preparations, so that they could check the situation. Many people have already died." Upon hearing this topic, Lu Wan and Yang Tianqi immediately became vigilant. Recently, they had indeed heard from their sister that she had encountered trouble. Many cultivators below the Foundation Establishment realm had inexplicably disappeared. Those children were not very strong to begin with. No one knew what had happened, but they had disappeared very strangely. According to him, If there was really such a mystic realm and many people captured those children and brought them into the mystic realm to help them scout the way, everything seemed to make sense. Yang Tianqi held his weapon and warned the man. Do you know that the state preceptor is trying her best to arrest these fellows who are wreaking havoc everywhere? If we were to report the fact that you didn't report this matter to the state preceptor, you won't survive. The man smiled helplessly and said, My baby, I'm just a small fry. Back then, I was also helping them do things. Later on, I really couldn't stand their actions anymore, so I ran out myself. Even if you sue me, what's the use? Can you capture them? How do I know if you're telling the truth? In any case, as long as we arrest you guys, there's no mistake. Lu Wen's thoughts were completely different from Yang Tianqi's. He looked at the man and said, How can we believe what you said? Moreover, you said that those guys ignored human lives and used people as bait. What about you? What's the difference? Can the two of us come out alive after going in? The man suddenly took out a storage bag from his pocket and said to the two of them, I've been preparing for this for a long time. I have some understanding of the situation inside. As long as the two of you are willing to cooperate with me, I guarantee that the two of you will be able to come out alive because I've seen someone come out alive.
Yang Tianqi frowned.
He felt that something was wrong and wanted to pull Lu Wen away. Since he had discovered the lair of these people, he had to quickly report this matter. He had to let Sister Little Man know early and then capture these guys in one go before discovering the mystic realm. As for what was in the mystic realm and how to explore it, Sister Little Man would definitely have a way. If she really couldn't, she would wait for her master to return. However, just as he was about to leave, he realized that the person beside him could not be pulled away. Lu Wen stood there and looked at the man thoughtfully. Lu Wen, what are you doing? We have to tell Sister Little Man about this quickly. We can't let them commit any more crimes. Lu Wen turned around and his voice reached Yang Tianqi's ears. Have you forgotten why Master asked us to come to Sea City? Of course. I didn't forget that Master wants the two of us to train and grow up well here. Isn't this a heaven-sent opportunity? Isn't such a mystic realm a good time for the two of us to train? If we can find the entrance and enter, I'm afraid this will be an excellent opportunity for the two of us to improve our strength. You're crazy. Yang Tianqi was so excited that he forgot to cover his voice. He turned to look at the shifty-eyed man and then persuaded Lu Wen, the two of us are only one step away from the Foundation establishment realm. We only need to temper our mental state and the power in our bodies. Why do we have to take such a risk? You don't know what's there. Lu Wen did not think so. He slowly put Yang Tianqi's hand down. It's because I'm not sure what's inside that it's worth exploring. This is an opportunity for me. You might not need it, but I do. What do you mean? Yang Tianqi looked at Lu Wen in confusion. Lu Wen slowly retreated. He felt that this brother of his would sometimes suddenly become incomprehensible. That was what he felt now. Go back and tell Sister Little Man about this. If I don't come back, pretend I'm dead.